Forget everything you think you know about the Knights Templar. Forget the myths of poor, starving monks in rusty armor. We remember their brutal end, but for over 150 years, being a Templar wasn't just a calling, it was the best job in the medieval world. This is the story of your life, not as a simple crusader, but as a Templar knight. Imagine this. You are a soldier of God, but also a banker with a sword, a monk in shining armor. Kings fear you, popes welcome you, and your name alone can open any door, or seal someone's fate. You are part of an elite order that is more powerful and wealthier than most kingdoms. Let's transport ourselves to the bustling port city of Acre in the 13th century. The sun rises over the harbor, catching the sails of ships from Venice and Genoa. Below, the courtyard of the Templar fortress is already alive. Knights are practicing their swordplay, the clang of steel echoing off the stone walls. Squires hurry back and forth, polishing armor and tending to powerful warhorses that cost more than a peasant's farm. The air smells of sea salt, sweat, and the faint, sweet scent of incense drifting from the chapel. Later, you're in the Great Hall. The room is vast, its high ceilings draped with banners. Sunlight streams through arched windows, illuminating long wooden tables laden with food. This isn't gruel and hard bread. This is roasted meat, fresh fish, and bread made from fine white flour. You drink wine, not water, from a silver cup. A high-ranking brother is reading a letter aloud. It's from the Pope himself, sealed with a lead bulla. You wear the iconic white mantle, emblazoned with a bold red cross. When you walk through the streets of Acre, people part ways. Merchants bow their heads. Guards at the city gates snap to attention. That cross is a symbol of instant respect, authority, and yes, a little bit of fear. Everyone knows the tragic story of Friday the 13th, 1307, when King Philip IV of France, drowning in debt and paranoia, brought the Templars crashing down. Betrayal, mass arrests, torture, it's a dramatic and bloody end. But that's just the final chapter. For the century and a half before that, being a Templar was like being a medieval celebrity, a special forces operator, and a Wall Street banker all rolled into one. You were protected by the most powerful man in Europe. The Pope paid in gold and treated like living legends. Let's bust some myths. The image of the humble, impoverished warrior monk. That was brilliant marketing. The reality? You were part of an elite commando unit living a life of surprising luxury. You had a rule allowing you to eat meat 3 times a week, a privilege unheard of for most monks. You had access to the best armor, the strongest horses, and a network of magnificent castles. And the best part? You had diplomatic immunity. No king, no baron, no local bishop could touch you. How did this happen? How did a small band of knights become an international superpower? It all started with incredible branding and an even better business model. Our story begins in Jerusalem around the year 1119. The First Crusade is over, but the roads are still incredibly dangerous for Christian pilgrims traveling to the Holy Land. Bandits and raiders hide in the hills, preying on the faithful. A French knight named Hugh de Paynes and 8 of his companions have an idea. They vow to protect these pilgrims. A noble mission, right? King Baldwin II of Jerusalem gives them a headquarters on the Temple Mount, and from that, they take their name, the poor fellow soldiers of Christ and of the Temple of Solomon. The Templars. Their initial brand was one of poverty and piety. But their real genius was getting the backing of the church's greatest influencer, Bernard of Clairvaux. He wrote the rule book for the order and championed their cause across Europe. The branding was simple but powerful. A white mantle symbolizing purity, marked with a red cross, symbolizing a willingness to be a martyr for Christ. It was a logo that screamed divine authority. And then the money started pouring in, and I mean pouring. Kings, queens, dukes, and wealthy nobles, wanting to secure their place in heaven, started donating. They didn't just give gold, they gave land. They gave castles, farms, vineyards, mills, and entire villages. Each donation, from England to Spain to France, became another asset in a rapidly growing portfolio. Each Templar stronghold, or preceptory, wasn't just a military base. It was a profit-generating center. It was a farm, a bank, and a recruitment office all in one. Huda Paynes, the founder who started with just 8 men, was soon touring Europe like a rock star, being welcomed into royal courts and leaving with chests of gold and deeds to vast estates. By the mid-1200s, the Templars weren't just warriors anymore. They were landlords, international bankers, diplomats, and logistics experts. That red cross on a white field had become one of the most powerful and trusted logos in history. Need to send a fortune from London to Jerusalem without it being stolen. The Templars could do it. They invented a system of credit notes, a precursor to modern banking, allowing a person to deposit money in one preceptory and withdraw it in another thousands of miles away. They were running an international financial network centuries before the Medici family or Swiss banks. They moved gold, brokered treaties, and managed vast agricultural enterprises, all under the protection of the Pope. So, what was your daily life like? It was a structured mix of piety and power. You'd begin the day with prayer, but soon you'd be donning your armor for training. Your meals were communal and hearty. You weren't just a soldier, you were an administrator. You might be overseeing the transport of a gold convoy, managing the accounts of a sprawling estate, or even advising a king on military strategy. You had access to information and resources that were simply beyond the reach of others. Your orders spanned continents, giving you a truly global perspective in a very local world. You were part of a machine that dealt in protection, finance, and diplomacy, and the privileges were staggering. The Templars answered to one man and one man only, the Pope. This meant you were effectively above the law of any kingdom you operated in. No king could tax your lands. No local lord could arrest you. You and your brothers could cross borders freely at a time when borders were jealously guarded. For a while, you were untouchable. An independent, multinational corporation with its own army, its own laws, and its own bank, all blessed by God. Of course, a golden age can't last forever. When you become that wealthy and that powerful, you make enemies. Powerful enemies. By the early 1300s, the Crusader states in the Holy Land had fallen. The Templars' original mission was, in many ways, gone. They were a massive military force with no war to fight. And they were sitting on a mountain of cash. Enter King Philip IV of France. He was ambitious, ruthless, and deeply in debt, much of it to the Templars themselves. He saw their power not as a holy shield for Christendom, but as a direct threat to his own royal authority. He couldn't control them, he couldn't tax them, and he owed them a fortune. So he decided to destroy them. On Friday, October 13th, 1307, Philip unleashed his master stroke. In a coordinated dawn raid across France, his men arrested every Templar they could find. The immunity that had protected you for nearly 2 centuries shattered overnight. The charges were shocking: heresy, idolatry, and all manner of depraved acts, all fabricated, designed to turn public opinion and justify the king's actions. The trials were a sham. Knights who had been hailed as heroes were subjected to brutal torture until they confessed to ludicrous crimes. Your leaders, including the Grand Master Jacques de Molay, were burned at the stake. Royal greed, disguised as pious justice, had triumphed. The story of the Templars is more than just a tale of knights and castles. They were innovators. They were savvy businessmen who understood the power of branding. They created a system of international finance that was centuries ahead of its time. Their rise shows how a clear mission and a powerful brand can create an empire. Their fall is a timeless lesson in how success breeds envy, and how unchecked power, no matter how righteous its origins, will always attract enemies. Today, if the Templars existed, they would be a hybrid organization unlike any other, part special forces, part global investment bank, part diplomatic corps, with the moral authority of a major religious institution. They were the original multinational corporation, and for 150 years, being one of them was the greatest role you could have in the medieval world. Thanks so much for watching. If you enjoyed this journey back in time, please hit that like button and subscribe for more stories from history. We'd love to have you in our community.